I haven't had a moment of privacy in weeks, and I think the people I work with know things about me that I've never told a single soul. I work at a call center. It's crammed into a dead department store inside a half-abandoned mall. The windows are boarded shut. We come and go through metal doors in the back like nobody's supposed to know we're in there. We handle customer service for a bunch of different companies. One call, I'm walking a woman through resetting her Wi-Fi. The second that call ends, and I mean the literal second, I'm helping some guy reschedule a fridge delivery. The variety is the only good part of this job. Everything else is brutal. 15 minutes for lunch, 10 minutes of breaks total for the whole shift, and that includes bathroom trips. Go over and you get written up. Turnover was so bad that the people who actually knew what they were doing spent more time training replacements than taking calls. Management started calling it a measurable loss of productivity. That's the kind of place this is. One of my co-workers, Sharon, sort of became our unofficial HR. We don't have a real one. That alone should tell you everything. Sharon used to work in social work before this job started paying better. A few weeks ago, she decided she was going to fix morale herself. Her idea was a compliment jar. We'd write nice things about each other, drop them in, and once a week she'd read them out loud to the whole shift. She said it wasn't mandatory. She just wanted people's hard work to be seen. Everyone groaned. Just one more task nobody asked for. But she promised it was optional, and so it started. At the first reading, Sharon reached into the jar and pulled out a folded slip of paper. Tim is always patient with the assholes. Nobody even knew who Tim was. Someone clapped out of pure social obligation, and then it kept going like that. Alice makes good coffee. Thank you, Emma, for fixing my headset. If you need a TV fixed, ask Blake. It felt hollow, performative. I figured it would die out in a week. A few days later, Sharon walked past my desk with the jar under her arm. She asked how I thought it was going. I told her nobody was crying yet, and she laughed. Then she got quiet and said something that actually stuck with me. That people here are miserable, that we get screamed at for 8 hours and go home wondering if anyone would even notice if we didn't come back. I told her management would notice. She said, only if the call queue backs up. By the second reading, the compliments had gotten lazier. Mostly just, good attendance, thanks for being on time. Then one made me actually laugh out loud. If you think you're on a tough call, just look over at Josh. Josh always looks like he's 2 seconds from a breakdown, so fair. The jar seemed to be working. People started talking more on breaks. The whole office felt a little lighter. That's when it started getting strange. On a Wednesday, a guy named David came up to me at the coffee machine and asked if I'd been leaving home earlier because of the road work on Laurel Street. I never told him where I live. I don't even think I told him my last name. But the road work was real. It had been slowing me down all week. He said he'd just read about it in the paper. I let it go. People remember things. Maybe I'd mentioned it once. The third reading is when I stopped being able to explain any of it away. Sharon unfolded the first slip, paused, and read it with a strange look on her face. I'm happy that Alice got her oil changed over the weekend. That sound was really starting to bother me. Nobody laughed this time. Sharon tried to play it off as an inside joke and moved to the next one. Tim, your son really seemed to enjoy the clown at the birthday party last week. Elizabeth, your stylist was so right about that color. I'm glad you changed your mind in the chair. Blue curtains were the right call, Alex. Much better than green with that rug. We should talk about the bedspread next. These weren't compliments anymore. These were surveillance reports dressed up as compliments. Sharon kept laughing them off, kept trying to keep the room calm until she pulled one slip, read it silently, went pale, and said, "This one's just for me," and moved on without reading it. Then she called my name. "Bill, I love how careful you are watering the tomatoes in your garden. I think cayenne pepper in water would work better than the chicken wire." I have never told anyone at that office about my garden. I have never posted about it anywhere online. Nobody should know that garden exists. My hands went numb. My chest felt hollow. I don't remember walking back to my desk. Sharon ended the meeting by asking everyone to please keep the compliments workplace appropriate, like that was going to fix anything. On the drive home, I checked my mirrors the whole way. I checked my fence line for cameras when I got there. Nothing. But the next morning, there were more slips in the jar, and I never saw a single person put one in. The office got quieter after that. People started hiding their phones when others walked by. Bathroom trips dropped off almost completely. A few people started showing up in different cars than the ones I remembered them driving. I started running names through my head. David, who somehow knew my street. Sharon, who took the jar home with her every night. And then there was Ted, who casually mentioned that peppers would probably grow better in my soil. When I asked if he'd written the note about my garden, he laughed it off, said he just liked talking about vegetables, that's all. I found Alice at the vending machine and tried to talk to her about it directly. The curtains, the oil change, my garden. I told her people were following each other. Her snack dropped. When she bent to pick it up, she whispered one word. "Don't." She wouldn't look at me. She said if people thought she was talking to me about this, it would get worse for her. Then she walked away like the conversation had never happened. That same afternoon, I caught Blake in my rearview mirror. He followed me all the way into my own driveway before pretending he was just turning around. When I confronted him, he rolled his window down an inch and said he was just trying to find something nice to say about me. I didn't know what to do with that. I still don't. The night before the next reading, I wrote my own compliment, just to prove a point. "Blake, I love how determined you are to find compliments, even if you have to follow people home to do it." I wanted the room to hear it and finally understand how far this had gone. Instead, I got a phone call from Sharon that night. She was speaking low, like she didn't want to be overheard in her own house. She told me I couldn't write things like that. I told her Blake had followed me home. I told her this had gone too far, that she needed to shut it down. She said she wanted to. She said the regional office wouldn't let her, that other branches wanted to start their own jars because turnover at ours had basically disappeared and productivity was through the roof. Then she told me she had the jar at her house, that she was screening every slip that went in, that I had one waiting. She read it to me over the phone. "Bill, I love how you inspected your fence the other day. It's important to take pride in what we have." I don't remember much of the call after that. The next morning, I walked in, and everyone was already seated, chairs pulled close together, grinning like they were waiting to be fed. Sharon said she'd gone through the slips the night before, and most of them weren't workplace appropriate anymore. People booed. Someone accused her of censorship. She argued for a minute, then just walked out through the metal doors. Madison picked up the jar where Sharon left off. "You were so brave, deleting their number, Emma, even if you put it back in your phone later." Josh practiced his apology in the car before he went up to the apartment. "Madison, it's so sweet that you still sleep on your husband's side of the bed." She went to close the lid, then said, "Oh, a couple more stragglers." "Sharon, you were so brave to leave before we finished." I love how much faith you have in your brakes. The room went dead silent. A few people glanced at the metal doors. Others just watched to see who looked the most afraid. Then Madison read the last one. Bill, I love how you still think strangers can help, even when Sharon can't. Some people laughed. Some just stared at me. I honestly couldn't tell any more if the laughter was for the person being written about or for whoever had written it. When I got home, there was a strip of paper caught in my chicken wire. Bill, I love how careful you are about locking your door. Most people forget the kitchen window. I looked up. The blinds in my kitchen moved. I ran inside and found Blake standing in my kitchen, looking as embarrassed as the time I caught him stealing copy paper from the supply closet. I screamed at him to get out. He just smiled. Your voice carries so well, he said. I stepped toward him. He stepped toward the door. Excellent posture, he said. Very protective of your property. Then he slipped outside, glanced back over his shoulder, and said, Plenty of nice things to say. I can't reach Sharon anymore. Her phone goes straight to voicemail every time. And if anyone from work is watching this, I guess I owe you one more compliment. Sharon, thank you for the jar. I know you just wanted to help. Morale has never been higher.